Maya and David had always been a modern couple, living in the heart of New York City. They were the quintessential city dwellers, both career-driven, ambitious, and completely in sync with the fast-paced urban lifestyle. Their days were filled with work meetings, evening cocktails at rooftop bars, art gallery openings, and spontaneous weekend getaways. Life was exciting and full, and for a long time, they both believed it was exactly what they wanted. They had met 15 years ago at a mutual friend's housewarming party. Maya was an up-and-coming editor at a publishing house, known for her sharp wit and fierce determination. David was a software developer, passionate about coding, with an easy smile and a knack for making people laugh. They bonded over their love for literature and jazz music and, within a year, had moved in together into a spacious loft in Tribeca. It was a dream relationship, the kind people envied. One evening, 3 years into their marriage, as they watched the city lights flicker from their balcony, Maya brought up the topic of children. "I've been thinking," she said, resting her head against his shoulder. "Do you think we'll ever want kids?" David was quiet for a moment, then he shrugged. "I don't know, do you?" Maya thought about it. She'd always imagined herself as the kind of woman who would have a flourishing career, travel the world, and if there was time, perhaps think about children later. Now, at 35, she felt as if she were at a crossroads. "I don't think so," she finally replied. "I love our life as it is. I don't want to give it up." David nodded in agreement. "I feel the same way. Our life is good, Maya. I don't think we need to change anything." And so, the decision was made. No children. No disruptions to their vibe. No disruptions to their vibrant, independent lives. They were content with each other, content with their careers, content with the city that buzzed around them. They watched as friends became parents, saw their homes filled with baby toys and sleepless nights. Meanwhile, Maya and David traveled, dined at the finest restaurants, and basked in the freedom of their decision. Years passed, and their careers continued to flourish. Maya was promoted to executive editor, and David became a partner in his software firm. They moved into a larger apartment, still in the heart of the city, still surrounded by the hum of urban life. Their social circle expanded, but they remained one of the few couples without children. At parties, they were often asked, "Don't you think you're missing out? Or won't you regret it one day?" Maya would smile and say, "We're happy as we are." And David would nod in agreement, adding, "We love our freedom." And for a while, they truly believed that. But as they approached their mid-50s, something began to change. It started with a sense of stillness in their home. The spacious loft that had once seemed so perfect now felt overwhelmingly large. The walls echoed with silence. Their friends, once frequent guests, were now busy with their teenagers, caught up in school events, graduations, and college visits. Their social circle grew smaller, their weekends quieter. Maya noticed at first when she sat down for dinner one Friday night. David was late as usual, caught up in yet another client meeting. She looked around the dining room, at the tables set for two, at the empty chairs that seemed to stare back at her. The clink of her fork against her plate felt unnaturally loud in the quiet room. A wave of loneliness washed over her, unexpected and unwelcome. When David finally came home, he found her staring out the window, her face illuminated by the city lights below. "Hey," he said softly, kissing her on the cheek. "What's on your mind?" Maya shook her head, trying to shake off the strange feeling that had settled over her. "Nothing. Just thinking." "About what?" She hesitated. "I don't know. About our life, I guess." "Do you ever feel like something's missing?" David frowned, taken aback. "Missing? What do you mean?" Maya sighed. "I don't know. It's just that everyone's moving on with their lives. They have their families, their kids. And here we are, still living the same way we did 20 years ago. Doesn't it ever make you feel, I don't know, stuck?" David was silent for a moment. Then he shook his head. "No, Maya. I don't feel stuck. We made our choice, remember? We chose this life because it's what we wanted. And we've had a great life, haven't we? Maya nodded, but the doubt lingered in her mind. She couldn't shake the feeling that their life, once so full of excitement, was now beginning to feel hollow. As the months went by, that feeling only grew stronger. They attended fewer social events, spent more time at home. David immersed himself in work, often staying late at the office or bringing projects home. Maya found herself with more free time than she knew what to do with. She took up painting, a hobby she'd abandoned years ago. But even that failed to fill the emptiness she felt growing inside her. One night, as they lay in bed, David turned to her and said, "Do you ever think we made a mistake?" Maya's heart skipped a beat. "What do you mean?" "About not having kids," he said quietly. "Do you ever think we should have?" Maya didn't answer right away. She had been thinking the same thing for months but hadn't dared to voice it. "I don't know," she finally replied. "Sometimes I wonder. I see our friends with their kids, their grandchildren. And I wonder if maybe we missed out on something. Something important." David nodded slowly. "Yeah, me too." They lay in silence for a long time, each lost in their thoughts, grappling with a regret that had been building over the years. A regret they hadn't fully acknowledged until now. From that night on, things changed between them. The easy comfort they had once shared was replaced by a tension they couldn't quite name. They found themselves arguing over small things: who forgot to buy milk, whose turn it was to take out the trash. The laughter that had once filled their home was now replaced by silence. One afternoon, Maya received a call from her younger sister, Clara, who lived upstate with her husband and 3 children. Clara had always been the opposite of Maya, family-oriented, nurturing, the kind of woman who thrived on being a mother. They spoke often, but it had been months since their last visit. "Why don't you come up for a weekend?" Clara suggested. "It's been too long, and the kids miss you." Maya hesitated but then agreed. A change of scenery might do her some good. She invited David, but he declined, saying he had too much work. When Maya arrived at Clara's house, she was greeted by a whirlwind of noise and activity. The children were everywhere, running through the house, laughing, playing. Maya watched them, a strange mix of joy and sadness welling up inside her. She felt like a stranger in a world she had never chosen, but now found herself yearning for. That evening, as they sat on the porch, Clara looked at her sister and said, "You seem different, Maya. Is everything okay?" Maya sighed. "I don't know, Clara. I guess I don't know how to explain it. I feel like something's missing, like I made the wrong choices." Clara reached out and squeezed her hand. "You know, it's never too late to make changes, Maya. Life doesn't always go as planned. But it's never too late to find happiness." Maya nodded, but she wasn't sure she believed it. She stayed the weekend, enjoying the chaos of her sister's home. The warmth, the love that seemed to fill every corner. And when she returned to the city, she felt an ache in her heart that hadn't been there before. David noticed the change in her immediately. "You look sad," he said one evening as they sat on the couch, the TV playing softly in the background. "I don't know, David," Maya replied. "I guess I saw what we could have had, and it made me realize how empty our life feels now." David was silent, his face drawn. "I feel it too, Maya, but what can we do? We made our choice, and now we have to live with it." Maya felt tears well up in her eyes. I wish we could go back and do things differently." David reached out and took her hand. "Me too," he whispered. "Me too." The days dragged on, and the weight of their unspoken regret hung heavy in the air. They tried to fill their time with hobbies, with work, with trips to the theater and dinners out. But nothing seemed to fill the void they felt inside. One day, as they walked through Central Park, Maya turned to David and said, "Maybe we could adopt. It's not too late, is it?" David looked at her, a flicker of hope in his eyes. "Do you think that would make a difference?" Maya nodded. "I don't know, but it's worth a try. I don't want to spend the rest of our lives wondering what if. Maybe it won't fix everything, but it could give us the sense of purpose we feel is missing. David squeezed her hand, a small smile breaking through his usually stoic expression. Maybe you're right. Maybe it's worth exploring. They decided to start the process of adoption. At first, it felt strange filling out forms, attending interviews and meeting with social workers. They were suddenly thrust into a world they knew nothing about. A world of waiting lists, home evaluations, and emotional roller coasters. But for the first time in years, they felt a flicker of excitement, a spark of hope that maybe, just maybe, they could create a family after all. Months went by, and they threw themselves into preparing their home. They redecorated a spare bedroom, painted the walls a soft blue, bought a crib, a bookshelf, and filled it with children's books. They even started taking parenting classes, meeting other prospective parents who were going through similar journeys. It was challenging but also invigorating. They were doing something, moving forward, trying to build a future they both yearned for. But as the months stretched into a year, they began to understand that adoption was not as simple as they'd hoped. They encountered setbacks, delays, and complications. Some agencies viewed their age as a disadvantage. Others questioned their motives, their readiness, their ability to provide a stable home for a child. With each new hurdle, their hope dimmed a little more. One afternoon, after yet another disappointing meeting with an adoption agency, Maya came home and sat quietly on the couch. David sat beside her, his expression mirroring her own fatigue and frustration. "Do you think we're too old?" Maya asked softly. David sighed. "I don't know, Maya. I mean, realistically, maybe, but I don't want to give up." "Not yet." She nodded, though doubt gnawed at her insides. "I don't either, but what if this doesn't happen for us? What if it's just too late?" David took her hand. "Then we have to find another way to fill this void. I don't know what that is yet, but we'll find it together." Weeks passed, and despite their continued efforts, they received another rejection letter. This time, it felt final, like a door quietly closing. David held Maya as she cried, and for the first time in his life, he felt utterly helpless. The next morning, Maya woke up with swollen eyes and a heavy heart. David was already in the kitchen, making coffee, his face etched with lines of worry and exhaustion. She approached him slowly, wrapping her arms around his waist from behind. "I'm sorry," she whispered. He turned around and kissed her forehead. "You have nothing to be sorry for. We tried, we really did." Maya pulled away slightly, looking up at him with a sad smile. "I know, but I can't help but feel like we've lost something we never even had." David nodded, understanding all too well what she meant. "I feel the same way, but we can't let it destroy us. Maya, we have to find a way to keep living, to find happiness in what we do have." Maya sighed, her eyes glistening with unshed tears. "But what do we have, David? A beautiful apartment? A city that never sleeps? Those things feel so insignificant now." David nodded. "I know. I feel it too. But maybe we need to look outside ourselves. Maybe we need to find a new purpose." They began volunteering at a local community center, spending time with children in after-school programs. It was hard at first, bittersweet, even to be surrounded by the very thing they had wanted so desperately. But over time, they began to find comfort in it. They helped with homework, organized art projects, and read stories. The children grew to love them, and in return, Maya and David found a kind of solace, a sense of fulfillment they hadn't felt in years. One day, as they were leaving the center, a little girl named Emma, who had grown particularly attached to Maya, ran up and hugged her tightly. "Are you coming back tomorrow?" she asked, her big brown eyes full of hope. Maya smiled, her heart swelling with a warmth she hadn't felt in a long time. "Of course, sweetheart. I wouldn't miss it for the world." David watched, his heart filled with a mixture of pride and a lingering ache. He realized that while they might never have children of their own, they were still capable of giving love, still capable of making a difference in a child's life. They continued to volunteer, and slowly, their lives began to fill with new meaning. They made new friends, developed a deeper bond with the community, and found a new rhythm to their days. They weren't parents in the traditional sense, but they were still part of something bigger than themselves. They were still giving, still loving, still contributing. Years passed, and they grew older. Their hair turned silver, their steps a bit slower. The city around them continued to buzz with life, but they found peace in their quieter moments. They still traveled, still dined out occasionally, but their priorities had shifted. They cherished their time at the community center, with the children who had become like an extended family to them. One winter evening, as they sat by the window, watching snowflakes fall softly on the streets below, David reached for Maya's hand. "Do you still regret it?" he asked, his voice barely a whisper. Maya looked at him, her eyes filled with a mixture of sadness and acceptance. "Sometimes," she admitted. "But then I think about all the love we've given, all the lives we've touched, and I realize that maybe we were meant to find a different kind of family." David nodded, squeezing her hand. "Maybe you're right. Maybe this is our way of leaving a mark, of living on in some small way." They sat in silence, the city's hum muffled by the snow outside. For the first time in years, Maya felt a sense of peace, a sense of contentment that had eluded her for so long. As they grew older, they continued their work at the community center. Even as their health began to wane, they were often tired, their bodies not as agile as they once were, but their hearts were full. They found joy in the little things: a child's laughter, a thank you note from a grateful parent, the sight of a teenager they'd mentored graduating high school. On the day of their 40th wedding anniversary, the community center organized a small celebration. The children they had helped over the years, now grown up, returned to thank them, sharing stories of how Maya and David had impacted their lives. It was a bittersweet moment, filled with laughter and tears, a testament to the lives they had touched in their own unique way. That night, as they walked home hand in hand, Maya looked at David, her eyes filled with tears. "I think we did okay, don't you?" David smiled, his heart swelling with love for the woman beside him. "Yeah, I think we did more than okay." They continued their walk in the gentle light of the city, their steps slow but steady, knowing that while their lives had taken a different path than they'd imagined, they had still found a way to love, to give, and to leave behind a legacy that mattered. And in that quiet understanding, they found peace. Moral of the story: life does not always go as planned, and the choices we make may bring unexpected regrets. However, it's never too late to find purpose and meaning in new ways. Even when one door closes, others may open, offering opportunities to give, love, and connect. True fulfillment often comes not from adhering to a specific path, but from embracing the journey, making the most of the present, and finding contentment in the impact we have on others' lives. Happiness is not always found in having everything we thought we wanted, but in learning to find joy and purpose in what we have and the difference we can make. Thank you for listening. Do you think they made a right decision? Let me see your opinion in the comments section. Please support me. Subscribe to my channel for more interesting stories. Comment, like, and share. Thank you. See you in my next video. Bye.